Why does society keep putting the wrong men in power? This is not rare. It happens again and again. In big corporations, in politics, in financial institutions, the person who rises is often not the most capable one in the room. People usually blame corruption or ignorance. That explanation feels satisfying. But what if the outcome is not random? What if the system is producing exactly what it was built to produce? When something repeats across industries and decades, it is not bad luck. It is structure. Da Vinci did not blame symptoms when something failed. He studied the anatomy. Power works the same way. If you focus only on personalities, you miss the mechanism, and until you understand the mechanism, frustration stays emotional instead of strategic. In the last video, we explored how leverage changes outcomes. Power selection follows the same logic. Big hierarchies are not built to find the smartest individual in isolation. They are built to protect what already exists. Stability comes before excellence. Organizations prefer leaders who keep things steady rather than shake the structure. This is not about morality, it is about protection. Large systems do not like sudden change. When someone pushes aggressive reform or challenges core assumptions, the structure feels threatened. Threat triggers resistance. Over time, only the people who operate within safe boundaries keep advancing. The pattern becomes predictable. Leadership begins to reflect who fits the system, not who could improve it the most. Until you see this clearly, it looks like coincidence. It is not coincidence. It is preservation. If you prefer strategic architecture over financial noise, subscribe. This channel builds systems, not motivation. Now let's challenge a comfortable belief. Many people think the most capable person naturally rises to the top. That sounds fair, it sounds logical. But inside corporate boardrooms, on Wall Street, and within political committees, promotion is not pure merit. Skill matters, but only within safe limits. The person who challenges everything too directly can make powerful people uncomfortable. Discomfort creates resistance. The system does not simply ask, who is best? It asks, who keeps the structure stable? That shift changes everything. Advancement slowly becomes less about excellence and more about predictability. Over time, the bold reformer slows down and the safe operator moves ahead. The biggest mistake most people make is assuming skill is the main requirement for power. It is not. Stability is. Inside large companies like Apple or Amazon, leaders are chosen by groups who want to reduce risk. They think about reputation, stock market prices, internal politics, and public reaction. A highly capable but disruptive person introduces uncertainty. Would you promote someone who might destabilize what you are responsible for protecting? Uncertainty makes decision-makers nervous. The safer candidate may not be exceptional, but he does not threaten the structure. Which choice protects the system more, the brilliant reformer or the steady operator? That matters more than brilliance. Over time, this quiet filtering removes the most unpredictable personalities. By the time leadership is finalized, the sharpest minds may already be gone. What remains is the most acceptable option, not the most capable, the most acceptable. This dynamic can be understood through what we call the predictability principle. Systems elevate those whose behavior can be forecasted with minimal variance. Predictability reduces internal friction, protects capital, and stabilizes alliances. Competence, however, often introduces variance. Highly capable individuals revise assumptions, challenge inefficient policies, and pursue optimization beyond what the structure comfortably absorbs. From a systemic perspective, variance is risk. Risk must be contained. Therefore, advancement filters favor individuals whose responses remain consistent under pressure, even if those responses are mediocre. The predictability principle explains why technically superior candidates stall while politically fluent operators advance. It is not intelligence that threatens hierarchy, it is unpredictability. When institutions choose leaders, they choose stability profiles. Competence becomes secondary if it increases volatility within the established order. Consider two professionals inside a large financial firm. The first is analytically exceptional. He identifies inefficiencies in capital allocation, challenges outdated models, and proposes structural reforms that could increase long-term returns. The second is politically calibrated. He supports existing leadership narratives, avoids direct confrontation, and communicates change incrementally. Both are intelligent, both understand markets. Yet when promotion decisions occur, the second often advances first. Why? Because he reduces perceived disruption. In corporate America, risk committees, boards, and executive teams evaluate leadership potential through downside scenarios. The reformer introduces uncertainty, even if his projections are sound. The calibrated operator preserves internal equilibrium. Over time, the system selects the candidate who protects stability rather than the one who maximizes potential. This is not incompetence by accident, it is selection by design. Most people observing this pattern feel quiet frustration. They recognize capable people being sidelined while less effective personalities rise. Yet few articulate the structural cause. If you recognize yourself in one of these patterns, write one word below. The purpose is not outrage, it is awareness. Once the selection mechanism becomes visible, emotional reaction becomes unnecessary. Governments and big corporations do not elevate the wrong men randomly. They elevate those who satisfy stability requirements. When advancement depends on committee approval, coalition loyalty, and perception management, selection criteria shift subtly away from pure competence. The individual who understands this does not waste energy condemning the outcome. He studies the architecture. He asks, what behaviors does the system reward, and what behaviors does it quietly filter out? Financial intelligence without emotional control becomes volatility. The same principle applies to leadership selection. Highly capable individuals who lack calibration can appear unstable within rigid systems. Competence alone is insufficient if it disrupts equilibrium too abruptly. Institutions, much like markets, penalize unmanaged variance. A portfolio manager who generates exceptional returns with extreme swings is viewed as riskier than one producing moderate but stable performance. Risk theorist Nassim Nicholas Taleb, author of The Black Swan, argues that systems punish volatility more severely than they reward brilliance. The psychology is identical in leadership. Committees prefer leaders who dampen fluctuations, even if those leaders limit upside potential. Emotional control, narrative discipline, and behavioral consistency become proxies for safety. Over time, these proxies overshadow raw capability. The result is predictable. Selection prioritizes containment over transformation, and containment often elevates those least likely to challenge the structure that chose them. The real driver behind this pattern is simple human fear. People are more afraid of losing than they are excited about winning. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman called this loss aversion. When a bold and highly capable leader appears, the group evaluating him sees two possibilities. He could improve everything, or he could fail publicly. Which outcome feels safer to people protecting their own reputation? Most groups choose safety. Boards, executives and voters do not just evaluate skill, they evaluate risk to themselves. A leader who might expose past mistakes threatens status. A leader who keeps things steady protects it. From school onward, most professionals are trained to seek approval inside structured systems. Stability becomes easier to reward than sharp intelligence. Have you noticed how calm predictability is praised more than precise correction? Over time, the system chooses emotional comfort over transformative ability. During the Renaissance, merchants funded innovation selectively. Scholars who challenged economic interests too aggressively struggled for patronage. Those who aligned intellectual brilliance with political and financial stability secured backing. Da Vinci understood this balance. He presented himself not as a disruptive rebel, but as a disciplined engineer capable of serving existing power structures. His genius was calibrated to survive inside hierarchy. Merchants sought advancement without destabilization. Exposure to volatile reform threatened trade networks and alliances. Stability financed innovation. The lesson is structural. Power does not reject competence outright. It filters competence through compatibility. The scholar who ignored political context vanished. The one who understood patronage endured. Leadership selection today mirrors that dynamic. Competence must be packaged within acceptable variance. Without calibration, brilliance becomes threat. With calibration, it becomes a sustainable influence. Several years ago, I spoke with a senior analyst inside a large US tech firm. He was known as the smartest strategist in his division. He challenged weak models, questioned outdated assumptions, and pushed for changes that would have improved long-term performance. His reviews were strong, his results were clear. When a leadership role opened, most people assumed he would get it. He did not. The position went to someone less impressive technically, but more politically steady, someone who avoided friction. When I asked why, the answer was simple. He's safer. That word appears far beyond corporate offices. In American elections, candidates are often framed as disruptors or stabilizers. Voters are asked which option feels less risky. Markets react to uncertainty. Institutions lean toward reassurance. The names change, the dynamic does not. Safer often wins. Big institutions remember pain. When the stock market crashes, scandals explode, or companies fail, the shock does not disappear. It changes how future leaders are chosen. After turbulence, organizations become cautious. They tighten standards. They watch for anything that looks extreme. A candidate who pushes bold reform may remind decision-makers of past instability. Even if the situation is different, the emotional memory remains. Would you gamble again if the last risk nearly damaged your reputation? Over time, caution becomes policy. Leadership pipelines slowly favor incremental change over transformation. Stability becomes the premium trait. The goal shifts from building something better to avoiding another shock. Competence, measured by bold vision, loses value. Competence, measured by controlled continuity, gains value. The system adapts to prevent pain, not to maximize potential. Scarcity makes people protective. When resources feel limited, expansion feels dangerous. Capital, reputation, political leverage, when these feel fragile, decision-makers shift into defense mode. Leaders who promise preservation sound responsible. Leaders who promise dramatic change sound risky. Even in strong economies, fear of loss lingers. Boards worry about shareholder reactions. Voters worry about downturns. Executives worry about headlines. When people feel they have something to lose, they narrow their tolerance for bold action. Ask yourself, Do you take bigger risks when you feel secure or when you feel exposed? Most choose security. Over time, this mindset shrinks the range of acceptable leadership behavior. Bold competence starts to look reckless. Moderation, even if average, looks wise. In environments shaped by scarcity, society favors the man who protects what exists over the one who tries to rebuild it. Debt changes behavior. When an organization owes money, it loses freedom. Public companies answer to shareholders. Governments answer to bond markets. Corporations answer to lenders. When debt is high, leaders cannot afford surprises. They must reassure investors that payments will continue and obligations will be met. A candidate known for radical restructuring can make markets nervous. Nervous markets raise borrowing costs. Higher costs reduce flexibility. So decision-makers begin favoring leaders who promise continuity, even if the system needs reform. Ask yourself, would you hand control to someone who might shake the structure when large payments are due? In high-debt environments, bold change feels dangerous. Protecting existing arrangements feels responsible. Over time, this pressure filters leadership choices. The person who preserves stability rises. The one who challenges the financial structure struggles to advance. Identity attachment within institutions compounds the issue. Leaders are not evaluated solely on strategy. They are evaluated on cultural alignment. Highly competent individuals who detach emotionally from institutional identity can appear disloyal. Loyalty is valued because it preserves cohesion, yet excessive attachment to identity discourages objective correction. A candidate who openly critiques internal flaws risks being labeled divisive. Divisiveness threatens unity. Unity is equated with strength, even when cohesion masks inefficiency. Over time, promotion frameworks reward individuals who affirm collective identity rather than interrogate it. Competence expressed through honest recalibration can be interpreted as cultural betrayal. Thus, the system selects individuals who reinforce shared narratives. Structural correction is postponed in favor of symbolic solidarity. Pressure reveals what organizations truly value. In a crisis, calm appearance often matters more than deep analysis. When uncertainty rises, people look for reassurance. A leader who speaks with certainty reduces fear, even if the situation is complex. A leader who explains trade-offs carefully may sound hesitant, and hesitation is often mistaken for weakness. Under stress, decision-makers prefer someone who projects control. Ask yourself, in a tense moment, do you trust the person who sounds confident or the one who explains every risk? Most choose confidence. Over time, this shapes who rises. Those who communicate clearly and decisively move ahead. Those who emphasize nuance can appear unstable, even when they are more accurate. Presentation slowly becomes confused with competence. The system begins rewarding optics more than depth. You don't have to imagine this. It happens in plain sight. When Apple faced serious pressure in its early years, Steve Jobs projected certainty. He spoke in bold language. He simplified complex strategy into clear direction. Investors responded to clarity, even when the path was risky. Years later, when Tim Cook took over, his style was different. More operational, more steady, less dramatic. Markets reacted not to personality, but to perceived stability. Both leaders were capable. But notice what people responded to in each moment. During uncertainty, confidence shaped perception. During scale and maturity, calm steadiness reassured investors. The reaction was not about intelligence alone. It was about what felt safe under pressure. Measurement systems also distort selection. Performance metrics often capture short-term outcomes more easily than long-term structural improvements. Leaders who optimize quarterly visibility appear effective. Those investing in foundational reform may temporarily depress measurable results. Committees relying on simplified metrics reward visible gains. Structural upgrades that require extended timelines are discounted. This bias aligns with publicly traded corporations, influenced by earnings cycles and market reactions. Behavioral measurement therefore shapes perception of competence. The individual maximizing short-term indicators can appear superior to the one building durable infrastructure. Over time, advancement pipelines reward those skilled at managing appearances within measurable windows. Depth is sacrificed for speed. Thus, the architecture of evaluation itself contributes to elevating individuals who optimize optics rather than enduring capability. Risk elimination completes the pattern. Selection processes are designed to reduce exposure to extreme outcomes. High-variance candidates, even if exceptionally capable, carry unpredictable trajectories. Committees default toward median projections. The candidate who promises steady continuity becomes attractive because he narrows distribution of outcomes. This statistical preference suppresses outliers. Over time, pipelines are engineered to filter disruptive variance early, long before final decisions occur. Interviews, background checks, coalition endorsements, and reputation assessments collectively reward conformity. By the time leadership is chosen, the most destabilizing minds have already exited or been excluded. The process appears competitive, yet its architecture steadily trims deviation. The final candidate is rarely the most transformative. He is the most acceptable within predefined risk parameters. The system protects itself from extremes, even if those extremes include exceptional competence. If this level of structural clarity resonates with you, leave a comment below. I read them all. Understanding these mechanisms changes how you interpret leadership outcomes. Instead of reacting emotionally to individual failures, you begin analyzing incentive architecture. You ask what behaviors are rewarded, what risks are filtered, and what metrics distort perception. This shift moves attention from personalities to systems. When incentives, volatility memory, debt structures, identity attachment, and measurement bias converge, the pattern becomes predictable. Society does not randomly elevate the wrong men. It consistently selects for structural compatibility. Awareness does not eliminate the dynamic, but it prevents naive expectations. The observer who understands selection architecture adjusts strategy accordingly. He stops waiting for pure meritocracy and starts designing positioning within real constraints. Which pattern dominates your financial decisions? Do you optimize for approval, stability, and visible consistency? Or do you build competence calibrated within structural boundaries? The same filters that elevate predictable leaders operate within markets and careers. Individuals who ignore institutional constraints often stall despite superior skill. Those who understand constraints can navigate them without compromising depth. The question is not whether the system is fair. The question is whether you understand its architecture. Power selection mirrors capital allocation. Predictability, perceived safety, and coalition alignment influence outcomes. If you misinterpret these variables, frustration replaces strategy. Identity must detach from emotional reaction and attach to structural awareness. Structural recalibration begins with observation. Study incentive pathways inside your environment. Identify what behaviors are truly rewarded, not merely praised rhetorically. Map volatility tolerance. Determine where risk elimination occurs. Evaluate measurement systems shaping perception of competence. Then, adjust positioning without sacrificing capability. Calibration does not mean submission, it means strategic alignment. Highly competent individuals who survive selection learn to package reform within acceptable variance. They introduce change incrementally, preserving coalition stability while advancing structural improvement. This approach mirrors capital deployment strategies in stable markets. Precision timing reduces resistance. Over time, influence accumulates. The objective is not to imitate mediocrity, it is to understand filters well enough to move through them without being removed. This channel is not built on hype or shortcuts, it is built on clarity. We study how systems actually work, not how we wish they worked. Understanding always comes first. But when money and influence move from theory into real decisions, structure becomes necessary. Without structure, even good judgment fades under pressure. That is why I use a simple system to keep my finances organized and my decisions measured. No noise, no urgency, just control. If you want control with your money, the link is below. Awareness alone is not enough. You have to measure what you are doing. Systems last longer than emotion. Incentives last longer than intention. The people who regularly review their own structure avoid drifting back into comfortable illusions about fairness or merit. Da Vinci understood something most people miss. Talent alone does not lift a man into power. He knew how to position his skill within the limits of the time he lived in. He studied who funded ideas. He studied risk. He studied timing. He did not assume brilliance would automatically be rewarded. The same rule applies today. Society rarely selects the most capable man in isolation. It selects the one who fits the system without threatening it. Until incentives change, this pattern will repeat. Anger will not change it. Complaining will not change it. Understanding might. When you see how selection really works, you stop reacting emotionally and start thinking strategically. Money does not reward effort. Money reveals structure. You don't earn wealth, you expose your architecture. And there you have it. The real reason society puts the wrong men in power. This breakdown sharpened your thinking. Continue with the next video. It will take you further. Support the channel by liking, sharing and subscribing, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Stay sharp, stay intentional. Keep crafting your wealth the way Da Vinci crafted his work, one deliberate stroke at a time. Thank you for being here. I'll see you in the next video.